On March 3rd, Sarah Bennett boarded a night flight alone, smiling nervously, clutching a red scarf, believing love had finally chosen her, and 60 days later, her name would be printed in newspapers across 3 countries. She had traveled to Egypt for a wedding, promised warmth, family, and a future, yet what authorities uncovered would rattle everyone who followed the case. Make sure you watch to the end. This story takes a turn nobody saw coming. Drop a comment right now and tell me, have you ever experienced something like this? I want to hear your story. Sarah was 32, recently divorced, careful with money, generous with trust, and hopeful in ways friends quietly worried about. She met Michael Carter online, an American consultant working abroad, charming in voice messages, patient in late-night calls. Imagine if this was someone you loved. How would you feel? The flight hummed, recycled air. 6 months earlier, Sarah's life felt stalled, evenings quiet, apartment echoing, and she longed for reinvention. Michael appeared consistent, sending photos of Cairo streets, wedding plans for his cousin David, and assurances about safety. Friends asked practical questions, visas, hotels, itineraries, but Sarah brushed them aside, saying love required courage. Some people say she should have known better. What do you think? Was she naive or just unlucky? She landed to dry heat, traffic horns, and a city buzzing after sunset. Michael met her once, hugged stiffly, then claimed work emergencies. He arranged a guest house and promised to return tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. 3 days passed with apologies, delayed calls, and explanations that felt rehearsed. Then her phone location stopped updating entirely, and what happened next would change everything. Investigators would soon notice small inconsistencies that hinted at deception, neglect, and a plan forming quietly beneath foreign skies, far away. Jane panicked, calling embassies, airlines, anyone who would listen, while Michael stopped answering completely. Egyptian police filed a missing person report, routine, slow, procedural. Weeks dragged. Remember what I said at the beginning? Well, this is where it all started to unravel, because Sarah's passport was used at a hotel 40 miles away. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. If stories like this fascinate you, if you want to understand the psychology behind these cases, hit that subscribe button right now. We dive deep into cases like this every single week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, back to the story. Investigators questioned Michael, who had quietly returned to the United States, citing stress and confusion. His statements contradicted phone records and his tone felt practiced. But the truth? The truth was far worse. Emails surfaced, timestamps misaligned, revealing deliberate choices rather than panic alone. Searches expanded. Volunteers combed markets, alleys, riverbanks, listening for echoes of her voice. A neighbor recalled hearing an argument in English, sharp words, a door slamming. Michael insisted he loved Sarah, blamed cultural confusion, blamed distance. What would you have done in this moment? Would you have trusted him? 3 weeks later, a fisherman found a suitcase snagged near reeds, fabric soaked, zipper jammed with grit. Inside were clothes Jane recognized, folded carefully, almost respectfully. But Sarah was not there. And then investigators discovered something that made no sense. Earlier, receipts showed Michael buying the suitcase 2 days after Sarah vanished. To this day, people argue about whether he was guilty. Where do you stand? The timeline tightened, pressure mounted, and Michael's calm began to fracture during interviews. Cold river water smelled of algae, while summer insects buzzed relentlessly overhead, nearby as days blurred into sleepless nights for Jane, alone, waiting. Michael was arrested upon re-entry, charged after forensic tests linked fibers from the suitcase to his car trunk. He pleaded innocence, claimed panic, said Sarah ran away. The jury listened to recordings, heard his pauses, measured his words. Some people say the jury decided his fate too quickly. Too fast? Too slow? Tell me in the comments. Mid-trial, defense revealed messages suggesting Sarah planned to leave Michael. That revelation cracked the room. Remember the red scarf from the flight? It appeared in evidence, stained, torn. And what she said next left everyone speechless, because Jane testified about Sarah's final call, whispering fear, saying Michael had changed. The courtroom air felt heavy, breaths shallow, pens scratching notes as truth edged closer. Outside, reporters murmured, cameras clicked, and rain tapped windows, mirroring tension swelling across a watching public who feared trusting strangers again after hearing every detail recounted slowly, daily, everywhere. The twist arrived when analysts traced Sarah's final phone ping to Michael's rental car, not the guest house. He had driven her out, argued, and in a moment of rage, struck her. His confession came fragmented, halting, admitting disposal but denying intent. Did you see that coming? Drop a comment and let me know if you suspected this. The newspapers printed Sarah's name, face smiling, life summarized in columns. 60 days after that flight, answers finally surfaced. But the truth was far worse for Jane, because Michael revealed he planned the cover story days earlier, rehearsed lies, and counted on distance. The courtroom gasped, and Michael stared at the floor, jaw clenched, as consequences closed in. Sentencing followed months later, life without parole imposed, families weeping, whispers echoing about prevention, vigilance, and responsibility within communities, across borders, where travel promises freedom, yet demands caution, always, forever, and care, empathy, honesty, accountability. During appeals, defense argued coercion, flawed translation, unfair media pressure. Judges reviewed evidence carefully, affirmed the verdict. Jane visited Cairo once, stood by the river, listened to water moving steadily, and let grief settle. What she found there surprised her, because locals remembered Sarah kindly, a woman who asked questions, smiled, tried. And then investigators discovered something that made no sense earlier, made sense now. Michael had researched suitcase weights, flight times, border checks. The planning was methodical. How could anyone miss these warning signs? The case forced agencies to revise protocols for foreign visitors, and families reconsidered digital relationships formed quickly. Yet debates raged online, some blaming Sarah's choices, others condemning manipulation, asking what education, patience, and support might prevent repeats in future cases, where trust is extended cautiously, deliberately, thoughtfully, with safeguards, transparency, accountability, and empathy centered always for vulnerable travelers, families, friends, communities, worldwide, today, now. Years later, Sarah's story circulates in training sessions, cautionary talks, and family dinners. Do you think justice was truly served here? What would real justice look like? Jane says justice is memory, honesty, and refusing silence. She keeps the red scarf, frayed, as a reminder of courage and cost. The newspapers fade, but lessons remain. Can you imagine the terror she must have felt in that moment? These cases ask us to slow down, verify stories, protect each other. And what happened next would change everything for Jane personally, because she began advocating for safer travel, counseling, and reporting systems, turning loss into purpose. Her work reached colleges, airports, and community centers, sparking conversations about consent, boundaries, and accountability across cultures, reminding listeners that love never excuses control, violence, deception, or harm anywhere, ever, again. This case changed many people watching it unfold, forcing reflection about trust built through screens. Would you have seen the warning signs? The jury decided his fate in less than 2 hours. Too fast? Too slow? Tell me in the comments. Many details mattered: timestamps, receipts, pauses. Michael will spend his life in prison, while Sarah's family carries absence. The callback is clear. Remember the flight, the scarf, the promise. That is where everything truly started and where responsibility begins. What would you do differently tonight after hearing this story? The answers might save someone. As viewers, we participate by questioning narratives, demanding proof, and protecting those who travel seeking connection in unfamiliar places, where kindness should be met with safeguards, shared plans, check-ins, and trusted contacts. Every step, every mile, always, together, aware. Across borders and headlines, Sarah's life reminds us that vigilance is compassion, and listening can prevent tragedy when stories feel perfect. We owe each other patience, verification, and courage to pause, ask, and protect without judgment, shame, or delay, especially when loved ones travel alone, seeking joy, belonging, celebration, and change, far from home. This case changed me. It made me think about trust, how easily it's offered, and how carefully it must be protected. If this story moved you, if it made you think, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And let me know in the comments, what's the biggest lesson you're taking away from this? I read every single one. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.